Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose. Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose. Get a partner, then begin. Hold whatever pose you're in. Pose in, everybody pose. Get a partner, then begin. Hold whatever pose you're in. Pose in, everybody pose. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then. Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose. Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose. Get a partner, then begin. Hold whatever pose you're in. Pose in, everybody pose. Get a partner, then begin. Hold whatever pose you're in. Pose in, everybody pose. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then dance. Everybody, everybody, everybody then.
Like me. 10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck. Nice to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, where are you from? More baklava. Like me. Hello, Aladdin. Nice to have you on the show. Can we call you Al, or maybe just Din? Or how about Lottie? Sounds like him, boy. Come on, Lottie. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your life. Yo, Rockman, haven't seen you in a few millennia. Give me some tassel. Yo, yo. You're a lot smaller than my last master. Either that or I'm getting bigger.
Look at me from the side. Do I look different to you? Wait a minute.
More baklava. Let me kick your bell. Like me. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant. Life is your restaurant.
why you ruin beautiful music. What you think you're doing? Drop some trumpet, take the wicked thing away. Drop some trumpet, gets me feeling nervy. Playing those sweet tunes, always soft servy. Drop some trumpet, I wish you wouldn't play.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. I wanna be a man cub, and stroll right into town, and be just like the other men. I'm tired of walking around. Oh, you say it's true, and it's like me. Can't learn to be human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and it's like me. what you do. Give me the power of man's red flower, so I can be like you. Oh. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie to me, human too. Oh, I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You say it's true, and they like me. Can't lie.
about you, and I can't get you out of my. Thinking about you, and I can't get you out of my. Out of my. I keep thinking. Out of my. I keep thinking. Out of my. I keep thinking. Thinking about, yeah, I jumped up and down the wall, asked the Pope to save my soul, and I can't get you out of my mind.
I don't think I've actually done that in years. We're talking about Westworld tonight. It's the Absynthe Podcast. Happy November 16th, everybody. Welcome to the 5 o'clock showing of the Absynthe Podcast.
Is it going to be 5 o'clock from now on?
No. So actually, I didn't tell you why we're doing it from 5 o'clock, did you?
You just told me 5. I'm like, well, I'll be here for 4:30.
All right, so first of all, let me introduce myself. Hi, everyone out there in internet land. My name is Tyler Holt. I'm the director of the Absynthe magazine, here to host you on the Absynthe Podcast tonight. With me, I have my lovely guest,
Kaitlin. I'm a staff writer with the magazine, and I am pretty obsessed with Westworld right now.
Yeah, definitely. Westworld is a huge craze. So yeah, no, I didn't tell you then why we decided to start at 5 today. So we usually start the Absynthe Podcast. We go from 7 to 8, which is
Usually.
Yeah. And we go from 7 to whenever we want to stop, which is usually around 8. Once an hour kind of goes by, we stop. However, the reason I wanted to do it earlier today is that because I have tickets to an early screening of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Ooh. okay,
Yeah.
tonight?
Yeah, tonight
Okay.
at 8 o'clock. So I being the director of the Absynthe has a couple of different perks where I can manipulate programming to a certain degree. So
Yeah.
after this podcast, I'm going to clean up the equipment and
the
get
pizza
ready.
and shit.
Yeah.
Just head out.
And exactly, I'll go and see an early screening of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And the way that I guess early screenings kind of work is that we're going to go, and it starts at 8. There are no trailers. Boom, go.
Just movie?
Yeah, just movie.
Holy shit.
Which is a lot how when you're a reviewer online.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah, exactly. You get an early screening to it, and then people post stuff on Rotten Tomatoes. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go and see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And then I'm going to write up a short, maybe 500 to 1,000 word spoiler-free review on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Did you listen to last week's podcast?
No.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Not that I never do, but I mean, like, I think I was busy last week, and I just haven't. What?
I'm trying to make a motion for you to put the microphone up to your face so all the
I
people
know.
in TV land can hear
I
you.
know, but I mean, like, when we did that last time, I sounded too loud.
Too
so
loud?
we're
Well,
not
it's because
that-
I sounded like crap. Hopefully out there, if we don't sound great, just tell us, and I'll help to adjust things in real time. Not real time, really. What will really happen is that you'll say something in the chat, I'll see your little icon come up, and then I'll scrabble over, and then there will be about a 10-second delay. So, anyways, yeah, spoiler-free review on Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Hopefully I'll have that up later tonight or...
on the website?
Yeah, on the website,
Okay.
so that you can go to absynthe.org, and that'll be up, and I'll share it on the Facebook group, and also, of course, my personal Facebook. However, spoiler-free, this podcast is not. We are currently going to be talking about Westworld. This is a spoiler-heavy podcast, so if you have
Super
not
heavy.
seen episodes 1 to 7,
Yep.
I humbly ask you to step off, my friend. And what are you doing if you haven't watched Westworld? Go and watch it right now. It's a fantastic, fantastic television show series. Go and do that.
Just
and then
ignore
come
Game
back.
of Thrones for a little bit and watch this.
Yeah, and then come back and watch this podcast. So go and watch Westworld and come back and watch this podcast.
It'll still be
and
here.
yeah, it'll be great.
I see something.
It'll be absolutely awesome. The Ginger Blueberry says, okay, fam, I got a jet because I need to scan some crap before I go. Have fun. Well, okay, the Ginger Blueberry. Thank you
Bye,
very much for
sis.
stopping by and watching the live stream. Hope you have fun scanning shit.
Hope you had a good day at work.
Oh, yeah, it's your sister, right?
Yeah.
That's cute. Awesome. Well, she can always come back and listen to the rest of the Absynthe podcast once it's posted, because
Yeah,
YouTube in the
not
live
bad.
streaming service does this amazing thing where they just immediately post your content to YouTube once you're done with live streaming.
Yep.
And because I play music before the podcast, I have to be careful and go back and almost edit it immediately, or else
Yeah.
I'll get like copyright strikes.
Yeah.
So need to
Do you do
that.
it where you just like cut off the music really early, or?
Usually, so under fair trade, you get 6 seconds that you can use material from. So I leave a 6-second handle that then transfers into the actual audio.
Okay.
And yeah, that's what I do. So that way it avoids problems, but also gives us the ability to post the URL. And that's a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for you guys out there in television land. So
YouTube,
yeah.
Internet land.
Internet land, TV land, it's all really kind of the same with digital production. So, I mean, definitely one way if you want to watch Westworld is to go and do it through HBO Go.
Yeah. If you don't
Which-
have it on like with a TMN package or anything like that on your TV, but I know a friend who told me today that he doesn't have TV, where he lives around
Yeah.
here, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I was really lucky to have a TV when I lived here. So like, lucky to have cable even. Like a TV is one thing, but cable, like
Yeah,
along
definitely.
with rent, like, yeah, it was like super, super great.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for like when I was still like actively watching it. Like every Tuesday, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit here at the TV and watch it, even though I should be doing homework.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's fair.
cable.
Oh, Adam, he says that if he leaves now, he won't have real-time talks. Well, Adam, if you want to stick around, that's fine. We're going to primarily talk about the first few episodes to begin with and not spoil episode 7 right out the gate, but feel free to stick around. Episode 7, though, what a friggin' doozy. We're not going to get into detail like I
Not
just
yet.
said, but so
Blew my mind.
how did you become aware of Westworld? Because it's like So you get it through television, like you
Yeah.
have television at home.
Yeah.
So you can just watch it on the TV every Sunday when it comes out, yeah?
Yeah, I don't watch it live. My dad will tape it along with other things that he's taping, and he watches it too.
Right.
So it's not just me going like, "Dad, do this for me," but like, he'll sometimes watch it live, but then like I'll watch it maybe like Monday or like somewhere close. Either way, I'm waiting a week for it.
Well, if you have an HBO subscription, you should be able to get HBO Go, which gives you access to HBO Go is an online service like Netflix.
Yeah,
You can go and watch all of HBO's content.
Yeah, they
and
could do that.
my God, HBO creates some of the best content out there.
Yeah,
so,
this one is so star-studded too.
Yeah.
Lots, like a great cast.
Oh, absolutely, and we'll get into a little bit of that later. Definitely. So, you became aware of it
Through Facebook.
Through a Facebook
Because-
trailer, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the best ways to get video content like trailers around, because
Yeah,
in the
that's the
early
best
days of the
way.
internet, the only place that had movie trailers was
TV or YouTube. Maybe
well, no, really back
before the internet.
even before YouTube, you had to go to the Apple iTunes page.
Yeah?
And sometimes you had to pay to watch the trailers. So
Lame.
when Phantom Menace came out, people had to pay like $2 to watch the trailer and like download the MP3 or whatever file format they
Just
were using
download
at the
whole
time.
thing. Buying this thing that I will watch once.
Exactly. What's really crazy about the Phantom Menace trailer is that when it originally came out in theaters, I think it was before, it might have came out before, like, it was a trailer leading up to Titanic. Wow, I
Yeah.
really fucking butchered that sentence. People would go and they would buy a ticket to the movie, watch the Phantom Menace trailer, and then walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like,
that's
yeah.
how like pumped people were, and that's kind of a little bit of
Well, it was like a long time from like the 80s up until like the early 2000s when they had those movies. So like
Yeah.
like if you want like maybe a pretty good representation of what it might have been like waiting for that movie, you should watch Fanboys. Like
Oh, yeah,
a
that's
movie
a-
called
that's a funny movie.
Fanboys.
well, you know, it's kind of great. I wonder if we would have seen a similar reaction if there was such a big fan base for Michael Crichton's work as there is for Star Wars, because
Yeah.
Westworld is a Michael Crichton novel, which was adapted into a movie,
movie,
in 1978, I believe.
Did
I
he
could be
direct
wrong.
it too?
No, I'm not.
No.
I'm going to say that I don't know how involved he
I've-
was. Most
I have a
people
feeling
who
he
do novels
directed it.
aren't hired to do the screenplays, but you can definitely check that if you
I
want to
know
look that up.
Yeah, I will. I know he directed like a couple of movies, and I have a feeling that that's one of them, and it's gonna bug me.
Well, of course, his most popular work is Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Not the book necessarily, but of course the movies. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much work he had in that. And then also a third book that I really enjoyed reading, but I don't know how many people know about, is Pirate Latitudes,
Yeah.
which I believe was in some ways the inspiration for the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, which then, of course, became the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So Michael Crichton kind of inadvertently has been responsible for quite a lot of content that we're all enjoying now. So
he wrote the screenplay. That's
he
what
wrote
it
the
was.
screenplay
He wrote
for
the screenplay for the movie.
for Westworld movie.
Yeah.
Okay, and was that 1978?
3.
1973. Okay, so I was wrong. That's fine.
But there was a
1971 was the first Star Wars movie, and that won
77.
77. No, it was 71.
77. It was 1977, and
God
then they went
damn
on
it.
to the 80s, man.
I'm getting old. That's what's happening. Is my mind is eroding, and I can't remember dates anymore. That's okay. Yeah. So I became aware of Westworld just because I love HBO content,
Yeah, me
and
too.
I probably saw a trailer or something like that as well.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of hit in a fantastic time, because
It did,
what else are
yeah.
people watching right now? There isn't really a lot else that I've heard that's in heavy syndication right now.
Not specifically on HBO, but I mean, there's Travelers on Showcase, which is really good. It's like a time travel. There's a lot of friggin' time travel things going on.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of
Like-
television out there right now, but the one that
Yeah.
everyone is talking about right now is Westworld.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what Travelers is, but that's on show.
Travelers is like a weird kind of time travel thing where people are traveling from the future to to like our like the past or whatever,
Okay.
our time, through like into other people's bodies. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not them physically going into like another time. It's
Okay.
like it's really
Kind of like
interesting.
Quantum Leap. Interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of like a quantum leap thing. But
All
they're
right.
going like when the people
Everything is old, nothing is new. Everything is old, nothing is new.
Yeah.
Um,
and then other
great.
things.
So the first episode. This is
Going into Westworld finally.
Going into Westworld. I've been trying to like gently steer the
Yeah, I know, I'm
conversation there.
sorry.
We could go on for hours and hours about
About
television in
everything.
general, I
Yeah.
know. But so for both of us, this is, at least for me, one of the first series that I've been watching week to week for a long
Yeah.
time. Even when Game of Thrones usually comes out, I'll just wait until it's all out and then binge the season.
Yeah.
I didn't do that with the last season. Or did I?
I
can't
usually
remember.
find that at least every year or every time there's like a new season of shows, I always end up finding one that I watch every week.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
good. And that's definitely one of the best ways to watch this show is because it
is.
is so heavy. And what I see in Westworld is a great demonstration of something that we're seeing in television nowadays
Yeah.
that is definitely escalating television to a higher art. And you can also see this in movies, is a heavy emphasis on character and character development,
Yeah.
making sure you have very strong characters, and then the story kind of comes naturally after that, even if the story's kind of weak, because a lot of
Yeah.
what we're seeing in Westworld right now is kind of especially what's going on right now is almost like a buddy cop travel movie.
Almost, yeah, with,
Kind of, it's a
with two
basic
different-
hero's
yeah.
journey that we're seeing, or a quest of sorts, and it's not very thick. A lot of things kind of happen
In the
seemingly,
background and
yeah,
stuff,
seemingly
yeah.
by accident. However, of course, there's this strand of intentionality that veils the entire series, but.
Yeah.
The characters are so strong, and you're so heavily invested in each of the characters, even some of the characters that you don't particularly like, that it just doesn't matter. It's just all good.
Yeah, like I totally agree with that. Like, I almost feel like it's pretty cinematic, like a movie, because it's HBO, and I also feel like it feels like a movie because of like the really famous people they have in the cast. Like it doesn't feel like a TV show to me.
No,
really
it definitely
doesn't.
comes across as a movie, and I think that one of the things that definitely helps with that is the addition of Anthony Hopkins on set.
That, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris come together in every single scene that they've been in, and there are a
There's
couple of
only
scenes
a
where they're
couple.
in together.
Yeah.
Absolutely rock my world. They're great. And
Yeah.
I think Anthony Hopkins, he brings along this character that is Hannibal-esque, which is most
Yeah.
likely his
Yeah,
most
I
famous
noticed that, yeah.
role.
Yeah.
He definitely has this fierce artist about him.
Yeah.
This
And,
fierce
like,
artistry.
no one is gonna stop me because I can do what I want.
And
Like,
that's
or
definitely
just-
come out in some of the more recent episodes.
Yeah.
But okay, so who's your favorite character?
Well, I would say for a while I was thinking I really liked Ford, like Anthony Hopkins' character.
Yeah, so Anthony
Because-
Hopkins plays Dr. Robert Ford.
Yeah, he's like the park director for Westworld, which is like a theme park. We haven't really.
Oh yeah,
discussed
so
what it is.
let me give you a quick overview. Well, again, this is heavily spoilery, so I'm going to assume that anyone who wants to watch this podcast knows. But yeah, we'll give you a quick overview. So much in Michael Crichton-esque fashion, you're in a theme park called
Yep.
Westworld, which is owned by a company, and the Westworld is populated by synthetic human beings, basically. These are robots, and there is kind of a very intentional part in the dialogue where it says that these robots, even though they have a high amount of improvisation that can happen in their speech, they're made to look very human. They are not human. They don't have a real consciousness. Everything is programmed. Everything is rehearsed, and they are completely under our control. Even if they might have a high amount of processing power or an ability to understand and manage things and be, for all intents and purposes, independent, they are fixtures of this park. And then people pay, I think there was a throwaway
Lots of
line.
money.
I think there was a throwaway line of about $40,000 a day. So
Yeah.
very rich people come to this park spending
Only rich
$40,000 a day, and you can do things, and it's completely Western themed. You can start going into the park by coming into a train and then traveling into the heart of Westworld. In the beginning city is called Sweetwater.
Yeah.
And you, from Sweetwater, have a variety of different things that you can do. You can do what Logan.
Logan.
Logan's one of the characters, and he's the guy who brings William along,
Yeah.
who are
That
two
at the end,
guests
him.
in the park who we kind of follow a little bit. They're
Yeah.
one of the frames through which the story is told. However, I would argue that it's mostly William and then definitely Dolores. So there's kind of interlocking frames that we see the narrative from inside the series. But then, you start in Sweetwater, and you can have kind of a vanilla experience where you're just kind of being a cowboy, doing some shootouts maybe in the street.
Yeah,
you go to
like
a saloon, and
hanging
you
out
can
with
go on different...
prostitutes.
Yeah, you can go ahead and go on quests, and then of course go and have sex with prostitutes in the saloon, and then of course you can just sit there, get drunk, and have sex with these hyper realistic humans who are basically designed to rock your socks off.
Yeah.
Or you can go across the river.
Yeah.
And then everything past the river and further away from Sweetwater that you go is a more intense experience. Usually it's violence.
Yeah.
But they do come to kind of a Mexican or Mexico-esque city that is filled with Pueblo houses, and they have kind of a Mardi Gras parade that's going through. So it's not just the violence, but also the sex and the intrigue that becomes more intense as time goes on.
Yeah, and there's also a thing where to keep the guests safe or whatever, the hosts can't hurt the people, like the guests in the park.
Yeah, they're bound by
they
the
can kill
3
each other.
laws of robotics, which is you must
Yeah.
preserve, you must take any order from a human as long as it doesn't hurt another human or, I guess, yourself, and you
Yeah.
must, the third one, which is the most important, is you may not harm a human.
Yeah.
Is basically it. And I forget who made those 3 laws, but
Oh my god.
some Russian or German guy, one of
Yeah,
those.
I've seen an interview of it. And it
Yeah.
was like, a thing.
So those are the 3 moral laws of robotics, and they kind of govern the hosts, is what they're called in the series.
Yeah.
The synthetic people, robots, the hosts in
I
the show.
find it pretty confusing calling them robots because the only one that I think we know for sure is like fully like.
Well, we know Dolores
Machine is
and
Dolores.
well,
like
also
any of the older
Maeve.
Oh, and maybe.
No, absolutely.
Like I mean,
She
like
gets
they
cut
have
the
them,
fuck open several times. So
Yeah, I don't know. Like I mean, they have it so that they're realistic in the sense that they do bleed and then stuff like that. But it's funny because when you see them being made, it looks like they're like 3D printed or something in some way. So
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
really a great visual. And so
Yeah, and
the series is most definitely a departure from the movie.
Yeah.
I think mostly they take simply the concept and kind of run with it.
Yeah, I think they do say in the show that it was like the hosts have been made different. Like if you look at the one that talks to Anthony Hopkins' character Ford, and like the first time you see Ford, he's all like rickety and everything. Like
Yeah, there's definitely
like in
been they've definitely shown an intentional evolution of how
Yeah.
these, we'll just call them the hosts, how the hosts have
the
been built.
hosts, Yeah.
Yeah. So who's your favorite character? Let's start with that. Now that we've given kind of an overview of what Westworld is and what Westworld is, and we'll get a little more into the plot. Who's your favorite character?
I find Ford to be the most interesting character for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kind of because it's Anthony Hopkins, but then also because of how like complex he makes him, and it's just like I just find something interesting about this Walt Disney kind of character who's not very Walt Disney, you know?
Oh, that's crazy. I hadn't even really kind of I always consider Walt Disney to be a cartoon creator. I always forget about Disneyland and Disney
it's a
World,
theme
but
park.
yeah, most certainly.
And he had stuff. He has like he had a thing with like animatronics and still kind of does.
Yeah, okay,
most
so
of them.
with Michael Crichton, of course, going back a little, like, between Westworld and Disneyland, how kind of
Yeah.
fucked up was Michael Crichton's weird? He must have had something for theme parks, either some sort of
Yeah.
innate fear, because he made Jurassic Park,
As
he
a
did made
yeah.
Westworld, and then Pirate Latitudes, which eventually became a theme park ride, so
Yeah, and, like,
there's
in-
something fucked up in his brain, right?
in each theme park thing he's written, it's all gone to shit.
They always kill the
They
hosts.
always yeah.
I mean, the guests, yeah, they always
whatever,
kill
yeah.
the guests.
Like with Jurassic Park, though, it wasn't like fully functional. They were just going through it, and then people
Yeah.
ended up dying. But then this one, it's like functional, and if shit goes down, it's like really bad for the
Right.
park, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And they're not necessarily very straightforward. Obviously, it's futuristic.
Yeah.
But they don't explicitly say, I don't believe, what year it is.
Yeah,
And they don't give you you don't see the outside world at all,
No,
except for through
no.
maybe a picture, and everything looks pretty
The same.
much the same. Yeah, I guess they kind of use these tablet scroll things that
Yeah, and their phones are massive.
their phones are massive, but you can almost see through them.
Yeah.
And they're really definitely cool. And there's, of course, with the host, this hyper futuristic
Yeah.
thing that's going on with them.
I used to think actually that during, like, just the land where everyone hangs out with the hosts and stuff, I thought that was all like simulated, but then it seems like they just picked a piece of land and like claimed it just for the park.
Yeah,
Just
most
for
likely.
some reason, it just seemed like when you see the map and everything, it just seemed like they were just looking literally down on the people.
That when I first saw the map, I'm not gonna lie, and they're showing the train coming in. I
Yeah.
was thinking in my head like, is this all virtual reality, or did
Yeah,
they
it felt
somehow
virtual to me.
transport them into making mini people? But no, it's just
Yeah.
an actual map. We're all assholes. It's just a regular map. They're just looking at it kind of
Yeah.
in real time, and it can kind of scan stuff, which makes a hell of a lot more sense than
Than
they
just-
shrunk them into Ant-Men and then sent
Yeah.
them on their way to Sin Valley.
Yeah. Literally,
it-
Sin Valley.
And so, getting into a little bit of the plot, one of the things that I love about this series is that, again, it's character-based, so you're very much invested in the goings-on in Sweetwater and with the characters that you're introduced
Yeah.
to, and the plot kind of is a hero's journey. And there are a lot of questions that are underneath the surface of
Yeah, 'cause you
Westworld that
get
are
to see
posed in the
back.
world, but they never directly address it. This could very easily be a series about what is humanity, what is consciousness, what
Literally.
is the
Yeah.
human soul or the heart or the mind, and they don't say that at all. They don't address it.
don't,
Basically,
but
they
it's
took those
there.
questions and went, "This is all high school talk.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care about this. Instead, watch what happens."
Yeah.
And that's the real hook into the show, is that they create these great characters, and now watch how it unfolds.
Yeah. It really grounds in the thing that they have set, like, all the hosts have, like, a set, like, kind of story to them. Like, if you let them if you leave them be, they have their own lives. Like,
Right.
Dolores has, like, this kind of romance with Teddy in the beginning. Like, oh, he's been away for a while, and he feels like he doesn't deserve her, so they're not getting married or anything.
Yeah.
And you've seen their story more than once, but in different versions. So they go along with, like, Dolores being in the market, and then, like, seeing her dad, and then, like, dropping a can, and then it's
The different
some kind-
loops that they go on,
Yeah, the
and the
different loops, it's
intersection
really-
narratives.
It's really interesting. Like, there's maybe, like, the first time you see her hanging out with Teddy for a while, she goes back, her family's dead, and then, like,
Yeah.
he ends up.
And how many
kinda
times does that
dying,
happen?
and
It's every day. As
It's
long as she
every day that
doesn't
she
get
just-
diverted from her loop, she's always waking up in the morning,
and seeing that,
seeing
yeah.
Teddy, meeting Teddy, going off, and then her family gets murdered. And what's kind of
Yeah.
crazy is with Teddy, so Teddy is a guy, and his main fixture in Westworld is that he comes in on a train
And
and
he's
then
the
meets
first person you
Dolores in
see.
town. Yeah, he's the first
And
person.
you don't know that he's a host.
Right,
That's
and it
the
kind of
point.
introduces the interaction between the host and the guest, which is really interesting. But as someone who's become a really big fixture, his real part of being in the park was he introduces some people to some crazy adventures, but other
Yeah.
than that, if no one interacts with him, he goes home with Dolores and gets shot
Yeah.
by bandits.
But if he doesn't meet Dolores actually goes out and paints. and then I think.
But she still
the
goes
thing-
home.
She still goes home, but then I don't think I think the thing, if she's with Teddy, then her parents die. But then if she's not, then maybe they don't.
Well, the first time that I saw Teddy not being there and she goes home is when she starts to become a little bit more self-aware. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the things, is that these hosts experience these terrible things. The guests come in and murder them or tear them apart or just simply shoot them or
But then they
have
reset the next
really,
day.
raunchy sex with them, and everyone forgets. It's gone.
they
and
wipe
then they
it.
do the exact same thing yesterday. A lot
Yeah.
of the beginning of each scene, when they're shifting the narrative focus from one character to another, begins in the morning. They wake up, their brain is fresh, and they
Yeah.
start from there. And of course, what we're seeing now is that they start to remember.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense when they kind of dig into a little bit of the explanation, is that they're what's most recently come up in the episodes, and this is a very minor this is spoiler heavy, however this is a very minor spoiler for the later episodes, is that their improvisation skill is completely based off of some form of memory of their old life. So
Yeah.
the Ford makes this gesture of saying that one of the reasons that they are so sophisticated in their code is because they are learning and always learning and will
Yeah.
always learn.
Yeah. And I think that's like gonna be that's a good idea for like programming into the host, but it's gonna
Yeah.
backfire. You just know it probably might backfire on them.
Well, that's exactly what we're seeing with one of my favorite characters, which is Mauve. The
Maeve.
Maeve, yeah, Maeve.
They call her Maeve in the show. That's
Yeah,
why.
no, you're right. It is Maeve. And she's the madam of the brothel in Sweetwater. She's an awesome character.
Yeah.
Love her character. She's amazing, and especially because, unlike Dolores, she starts to become aware of her sentience or
Yeah.
aware of her situation
Yeah, where
very
she is, that she's
differently.
in a park, and that she's not a real person, and roping these poor guys in with her that are just trying to do their jobs when they're trying, like they're
Yeah, absolutely.
they're people who will like.
Well, I don't like the white guy at all. He's a piece of shit. But
Yeah,
the other
but I mean,
individual,
like-
the Asian guy who is starting to do coding and trying to better himself or try and be creative, I
Yeah.
feel sorry for him.
I do, because it's like, you probably need this job, yo.
Well, he needs that job, but he also seems, when he interacts with Maeve, that he's
nervous.
He's nervous because he's genuinely concerned, not just for his job, but he does some things, it seems, out of obligation.
Yeah. And he's
Which
like-
you wouldn't think that someone would have towards a host when your job
Yeah.
is dissecting them and putting them back together, right? So,
Yeah.
what kind of shit job is that? Because you're introduced to these guys and they're
Yeah.
cleaning out Maeve and
Like
other...
she was shot or something. And then
Right, but they're
just-
like cleaning her out, and the joke that they make is like the cleaning people don't do well enough, so there's all of this, like semen and stuff that's inside of her.
Ew, yeah.
Because of course the robots might not have
Yeah,
cleaning
yeah.
things, and it's just kind of like, wow, these people have shitty ass jobs, and there's all this biological component that they kind of have to take care of in being at this park. So,
Yeah, they do the worst job.
so how do you
And it's
feel
like
about
they're-
Ed Harris's character, the man in black?
At first I didn't like him. 'Cause I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
Well, you're just fucking.
Oh
everything
yeah,
up
the
right
first
now.
scene with Dolores is hard to watch.
It really was, yeah. He was just so brutal. But now it's like, I kind of follow him, and I'm like, I'm kind of interested in what you're going for, sir. Like, and especially in that scene when he was talking to Ford, like an old friend or whatever, like, he became more interesting that way. Because he came in, like, knowing the park, being there for years, probably because of a theory being, like...
Well, let's get into that a little bit later.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
move
just
into
other
that.
things,
But
yeah.
his experience definitely highlights the park as the park, or as almost an MMO experience where he has this skill set. He has better items because he has access to like explosives.
He's like a VIP.
He is definitely a VIP, and they address that where they kind of say in some of the control rooms, like, do whatever you want for this man, or this man gets anything he wants because he's been coming to Westworld for his vacation for the last 30 years.
They're also pointing out that, like, someone else is screwing with the park, and that is him. So, like,
Yeah,
there
in a
was
small way it
conclusion
is
to
him.
that.
So sometimes when things pop up, you don't know whether it's something that he's doing or
then
someone
it's someone
else.
else.
Yeah.
But unless you know what he's doing, it's like, well, okay, I saw that.
And I think that that's really the best way to do mystery like this
Yeah.
is not
Really, really vague
ask
stuff.
who does it, and it's just you don't know. It's better to ask who's doing it, and the answer is a variety of people. Like, it could be any of these players in the narrative.
Yeah.
That is the best way to do
Like a Clue
mystery.
kind of situation.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like, is it the man in black on the horse down in the canyon with Lawrence?
Yeah.
Who was another great character that I love is Lawrence. I was very surprised to see him pop up twice. How did you
Yeah.
feel about that?
Well, before I knew anything about theories, I just thought, like, oh, okay, so these other people are meeting up with him. Like, he reset, like, because that's what they do. When the hosts die, they fix them up, reset them, put them out. So I seriously thought that was just how it went, and I didn't think anything
Oh,
more
okay. So
about it.
Lawrence gets axed, repurposed, put into a different role. That's
Yeah,
exactly
that's what I thought.
happens.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
or that's the way he was before, and that's just like they just put him back.
Yeah. I guess we should probably talk about one of the main theories that's going on in the narrative is the multiple timelines theory.
Yeah, the theory that William is the Man in Black, or will soon become the Man in Black.
Right, because William is one of the hosts that we watch along with his soon-to-be
Guests.
brother-in-law,
You
Logan.
said hosts, guests.
Oh, sorry. No, he's one of the ghosts. What?
He's a guest.
Yeah,
He's a
exactly.
guest.
I said host and host and
ghost.
guest, and now he's a ghost, and he's going to haunt me forever. He is a guest, one of the guests that we watch come in with his soon-to-be brother-in-law, Logan, and he is a high-ranking executive manager of some company that has some stock in Westworld.
Yeah.
And he is portrayed as being very innocent. He is very nervous when a host that welcomes guests initially to Westworld offers to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And he's usually dressed in white. However, what's happening is that as episodes go by, his color palette is changing slightly because he's rather brilliantly, like, very kind of white tan, and now he's going more into brown colors and whatnot.
Tan now, yeah. But
And during the 7th episode, there's a guy in black who comes out onto a horse from the train, and I thought it was William because he was undressed in the scene last. I'm like, oh no, is this what? Oh no, it's not. It's okay.
It was
Wow.
just a dead guy.
Yeah, dead guy. So yeah, that's the story, is that because there's a man in black and William's mostly dressed in white, that it could be his transformation from this white knight
To this to
an
Men in-
antagonist of sorts.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
At first I was kind of like, well, okay, you're just trying to like put a reason for these guys being there. Because at first I literally thought that it was like, okay, so because this is a theme park and we're not really getting any other experience other than from the hosts and the people who work at the park, this is going to be like our going in as guests with these characters. And that's what I thought that they were there for, and it made sense, but like the timeline also does make sense because then you don't know. Like they're talking about like William and Logan kind of talk about how like the company might buy or like invest in Delos or whatever, in the company that runs Westworld. And that's I again thought it was like a thing like, okay, during the present this is probably happening because it made sense, but then people were pointing things out like, oh, when William comes off the train, the logo was different on the Westworld, and I'm like, I don't know, I didn't think much about it at first, but I'm like, okay, that
was something
makes
that I
sense.
noticed, is that the logo was different, and I thought, well, that doesn't look
right.
Well, it didn't look right. Also, if you consider graphic design, it definitely looked older. The current logo for the most modern-esque logo, if we're going to go with this time span, is the one that we have up on the screen right now, right next to my picture on the stream, is that very clean, sleek Westworld logo that you would see in a modern theme park or a modern company nowadays.
Yeah.
So, now, we have all of these great characters.
Yeah.
We have so many stories going on right now.
Yes.
We have the Man in Black story that, of course, kind of goes with Teddy's story.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of conjoined at this point. I don't really feel like Teddy's going to go anywhere besides this.
No.
We have
we haven't
Maeve's
seen him
story.
lately, but he is there with Ben in Black.
Yeah. I feel like Dolores' story and William's story is still very separate. I don't give a fuck about Logan. He's basically gone in my mind.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not dead because they wouldn't kill him in the park unless that comes in as like, oh no, this happened. Fuck, now we're gonna get sued, right?
Right.
But
we had Bernard's story and Ford's story, and now we have a new player who's coming in from Delos, who is head.
She's like for a board exec or something.
Exactly, and she's kind of come in, and then we have Teresa, and we'll see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah.
As the story continues.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the things that we're seeing is that there are now two characters, two hosts in particular, who have kind of waken up a little bit or are becoming self-aware. Yeah. We have Maeve and we have Dolores.
Dolores is a little more aloof about it. She's like, I just think that there's stuff going on, but then like Maeve is just like, she knows. She
knows. She knows that she is a host.
She's not going to be able to leave the park though. Like that. Come on.
Well, we don't know. Anything could happen.
I know. I'm kind of hoping
they could pull an ex machina on us, and she just takes off.
Could. But then that would be so weird. She wouldn't know how to live in the world.
She would, because Westworld is just like the real world in many ways, and she's had her.
Like, I mean, she lives in the past in a way.
But she's had her intelligence turned up to 20. So at this point, she can absolutely understand anything that comes at her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's completely equipped.
It'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah. But her story in becoming aware is so drastically different from Dolores. I kind of feel like they're playing a similar contrast with Maeve and Dolores as they are with playing against William and the Man in Black.
Yeah, maybe they are. Yeah, I don't know. We are drinking, so I mean, I'm kind of like on and off with my thinking process.
Having a couple of bevs, drinking back some bourbon, feeling that Westworld vibe. Well, because Maeve's story and narrative in how she is becoming aware is so much darker and so much more violent, because she's had to like cut herself open to be able to find clues as to what she is and how she can try and escape. Yeah. She's had to make very, very blatant threats to be able to get out of situations where her story needs to continue going and advance her motivations.
Yeah.
As opposed to Dolores, who's becoming aware of how to almost like rewrite her code in certain ways.
Yeah.
In the sixth episode, she shoots down 7 guys or something, and
she originally wasn't like the first time she shot someone. It was like a big thing because she was not able to shoot a gun.
Yeah, she wasn't allowed to, because there are certain hosts who can shoot guns and that can't, even though the guns can't. So the guns can hurt the guests in small ways, but they can't kill them.
Yeah, it's like a paintball gun.
Yeah, they get a nice sized welt, but beyond that, it's nothing. And then there are very, very specific hosts that are allowed to use in certain situations tools like an axe.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they're not
Like
allowed to even touch it.
The Native American ones that are supposed to simulate like natives.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, they have like one. I forget what they're called, but they have like this one tribe that's like
The Ghost
main-
Tribe.
The Ghost Tribe. Yeah. Are they the only ones
They're the
that
only
are, like,
ones that I know
that
of.
we know of? Okay.
I'm sure that, well, I mean, it's, as far as I know, also a completely fictitious tribe, so.
Yeah, but like I'm pretty sure they wouldn't like try to like simulate like an actual tribe in a theme park like that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well, it's also, as far as the theme park goes,
it's Cowboys
they
and
were
Indians,
wielding
kinda.
arrows, which are incredibly different from guns. I would be
Yeah.
surprised. Like, they probably can't even fire those at the guests.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet, so we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We've seen some Confederales get shot down and scalped, and we've seen at least one instance of kind of violence. Like when the hosts are dragging Logan away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus, that was. I was not sorry for that.
Nah, guy's a douche. It's okay to say it.
Like I like
Logan
the
is
actor,
not a
but
good
then,
guy.
Like him playing that character was like, "Yep, you're an asshole." Like sometimes it looked like they were friends, but it was also one of those like one guy being dragged along because he didn't know what else to do and he wants to get in with this family, right? And it's like, well, I need approval, right? Like
Yeah, it does kind of seem like William's experience in Westworld is a coming to age.
coming of age, yeah.
Yeah, for him, because he's going to be marrying a woman who is connected or is a part of a very high-ranking company.
Yeah.
But then he has this sort of revolution or resolution within himself where he chooses to have sex with Dolores. And
Yeah.
of course, his fiance must have known that was a part of Westworld, so she must have been completely okay with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a host. It's not a person. They're there for that specifically. There's no. It's pure sex at that point. It's nothing else, except for it's more for William, right? Because he has this emotional experience.
Or it
And
might
then
have been okay. I don't think it would have been the first time, but I mean, he just like, no, don't mind me.
Okay.
I'm
So,
trying-
but when he begins to talk about that and how he says that, he's been pretending out in the real world, and now in Westworld, it's for the first time he hasn't had to pretend. That was the real first time that I gave any sort of real credence to the William is the Man in Black story.
Yeah.
There are some instances that do betray that theory, such as the head of the security being present in one of William's scenes and in one of the Man in Black's themes. However, as we know, there are hosts
That
among
work at
the
the park.
staff.
Yeah.
Like you're very early in the series, you're introduced to hosts that welcome the guests to Westworld and introduce
you're not
them
sure
to the
if
idea.
they're hosts or not. The
Right.
whole thing of the show is not knowing.
Yeah,
which
you're
one's which.
not sure. They're made to be very, very deceiving. You're supposed to think that they're human.
Yeah.
But now we're becoming aware that it's very, very possible that hosts are amongst the staff working in roles and the other staff who are regular humans don't know.
Yeah.
And that, of course, in the 7th episode is made incredibly apparent when we find out that, and again, this is a very spoiler-heavy...
Warning.
Yeah.
Warning.
We'll give you another warning right now, is that we find out that Bernard is a host.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That was amazing.
There was like a huge hint to that though when they were like showing that other prostitute from the brothel, and they were just like, "Hey, like, let's have them do this," and then like he beats her up, and then she just takes it, and then the second time she like goes after like that host who's like acting as someone who works at the park. And then she ends up kind of like killing him.
Right. So
and
in
it's
a way to try and get Ford to expose his hand and step down from the company, they introduce a bug in a form of sabotage. Teresa, who's from the Q&A department and is working with the high chairs of Delos to be able to preserve some of the more lucrative assets of the company, primarily Arnold's code, which is the foundation upon which the hosts are able to work their magic in improvisation and remembering things.
Like, I think
So they
the
want
fact that, like,
Ford to leave so that way they can make sure that Ford doesn't delete that information and
Yeah.
make Westworld effectively useless and valueless. And they introduce this bug into one of the prostitutes and make her violent and try and expose some sort of fault on his side of violence in the hosts.
Yeah.
But of course, it's completely a sham, and Bernard takes the fall. Okay, so that scene in particular, though, so they have a tech in there
but that guy's a host.
Yeah,
They're
so
saying
they-
that he's a host. That he's not legit. They're not
That's definitely
actually,
kind of they definitely showed their hand a little bit in that regard.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we're not gonna let this like host kill this employee, or
Absolutely.
if he's an actual like. So it makes sense that guy would be a host.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of, and the fact that they reveal in that episode that Bernard is a host, it's kind of like, hey,
There was a little bit of foreshadowing, however, it was
there was
really
foreshadowing in other episodes.
it made
apparently,
so
too.
much sense. What I didn't see any other foreshadowing. What would you have seen?
I kind of watched some like analysis video because I was
That's not
obsessed
fair.
with- That's well, I
That's not it. That doesn't work.
He just pointed out like really simple things, just like where in some points he might have been in sleep mode and you just didn't know, and then it was just him acting weird, and then the fact that like Anthony Hopkins' character Ford was just like saying that he just knows how Bernard's mind works, and like
Oh, okay.
yeah, and stuff
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
I do recall that. That does.
Yeah.
That is a little bit of a hint, but because they're so close, I didn't
I
really
thought that
think
too.
of anything.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
did. I didn't think of that. And then
But so okay, Bernard becomes a host. What was the earliest moment that you thought Bernard could be a host?
that Anthony Hopkins moment. When
That
he said
Anthony
that.
Hopkins moment. Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
I
he's-
didn't know until they were actually in the cabin and he says, "What door?" And I'm like, "No.
Yeah.
No, Bernard, I
That's
love
when-
you so much.
that's when I realized it
No."
was true. I was like, oh, okay, fuck. Yep, that's a thing. This is a thing. And then they do reveal it, and I'm like, yep,
Yeah,
all right.
exactly, right in that moment. But what that makes me immediately question then is, did Ford know about Bernard's interviews with Dolores?
The whole theory about that, though, is because, like, people think that Bernard...
What do you think?
Well, I mean, they kind of think this, too.
Okay.
This is what I found out. That Bernard might be a host representing Arnold. Like, because we don't know really what Arnold looks like. In the picture, it's Ford and his father. And you know that from seeing those unregistered hosts, because that's supposed to be Ford's family.
Right.
And so we don't really know what Arnold looks like. So people assume that Bernard is just another version of Arnold. And oh shit, what was I going with this? I forgot what I was talking about. There's that. I kind of forgot what I was saying.
Oh no, did you?
The theory.
Well, so
Well, just that he might be like a version of Arnold, and then it's like a thing like that.
we were talking about Bernard's interviews with Dolores.
Yeah, and that because like it's because she's one of the early hosts, right? And Arnold would have had a hand in like building
her
right?
directly,
And
yeah.
with her code and everything. So it's implied that those interviews are in the past, but because we don't know really who Arnold is or what he looks like, if he's Bernard or like Bernard looks like him, then that's in the past, like Arnold talking to Dolores. That's because it's kind of the same. I think it's the
Oh,
same
okay. I
room.
see what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah.
that in the past where Bernard was...
Arnold.
Yeah, so
basically.
when Bernard was the character of Bernard was interviewing Dolores down in the basement, that wasn't actually Bernard. It was Arnold.
Yeah.
And then Ford makes a host that looks like Arnold and calls him Bernard.
Yeah, I think
So,
yeah,
okay, here's
that's what we're
another
assuming.
question. Did Ford kill Arnold? Because it's kind of implied in the last scene of the 7th episode.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Like they keep saying that he killed himself, right?
Well, that's what
But he was
they've
killed
been-
in the park. That's what they were saying too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't at this point. I wouldn't really put it past Ford to kill him.
Now, there's one other thing that they haven't quite. That's a huge frayed knot in the narrative is that there's another character who is a part of Bernard's team who went to go and find
Yeah, Elsie.
Elsie, I believe.
Yeah, we didn't find out shit about her the next episode.
She disappears.
Yeah.
And there's obviously someone who takes her.
Yeah, and Bernard's like concerned about that, and like
Yeah, well, I mean, he could be programmed to do that, but
Yeah, I was
you know
just
what
thinking
I
while he worked
think
with her.
is that the thing that took her was Arnold. It is Arnold. Arnold made. I think that not like human Arnold. I think Arnold made a robot, a host of himself.
That doesn't. Yeah.
Like he made his own consciousness, and because one of the things that we see is that there's this huge difference between Arnold and Ford. They approach hosts in completely different ways.
Yeah.
Ford was definitely. He's very concerned with telling stories and narratives, and Arnold was a shut-in. He didn't like society, and he didn't really like people. He liked the hosts more than people. Mm-hmm. However, there's a certain sort of reversal there where Ford is telling stories, something that's very divorced from society and people. Yeah. He wants to tell these stories and narratives and not be bothered, whereas Arnold seems to be very, very much concerned with not just building hosts, but by proxy, building people.
Yeah, that's what they are, yeah.
And both of them kind of have their own fears, I think, of death. Because in the way that Arnold was building these hosts, it's possible that he was trying to escape death in this way. So if he achieved that, then
he's like a host. Then he would be.
And that kind of like has a certain sort of persistence or survival, much like the video game Soma, if you've ever played that game.
I haven't played it, but I've watched it. I wouldn't play it for my life, but I watched it.
Oh yeah, good game.
It's
I
so
played
good.
it. Yeah. And effectively make a scan of his own brain and then put it into a host. Whereas Ford is trying to escape his own mortality by telling stories, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely like, he knows that he's getting on in years, and he's like, I'm not going to be around forever. And it seemed like before we knew anything about Bernard being a host, we were thinking, but I mean like that he was brushing him up to be a successor, but then that's... But then that's kind of weird with the theory that he's Arnold. So like,
I think that makes more sense.
Yeah?
Yeah, he makes another Arnold to take over for him.
Yeah.
In some capacity, that'd be great.
I just want to know more. I don't. So
Teresa's dead.
Teresa's dead.
That bitch got killed.
And she's probably just gonna come back as a host.
Exactly.
Sure.
So they take her down into the basement of the cottage, and they see the, technology where they're making hosts.
Yeah.
And Bernard makes the statement, it will take about 24 hours for them to make a complete host.
Because that's like slower or something.
It's slower than the ones that they usually make.
Yeah.
But that means that it's in the process of building a host right there. So what that tells me is that Ford had, for a couple of hours at least, way more time even than that, because he would have already had to set up the things for the backstory that would then create Teresa's psyche for the host as well.
Yeah.
So, that's what's going to happen, I think, is that in the 8th episode, we're going to see Teresa come back, and I think Bernard's mind is going to be wiped of whatever happens.
Yeah.
And they're just going to go on like usual.
Yeah, and then it's...
And then, of course, now... Ford will have a double agent inside Delos at that point.
Yeah, 2 of them. Yeah.
2 of them?
Well, sorry. Because Teresa's going to be a host and there's Bernard, so I'm like, okay, so both of them are going to be...
Well, Bernard isn't... So there's Westworld, that's kind of a company, and then Delos is a major investor. There's like a chair. I don't think that the company
Delos in the context of the movie is just the park in general.
Is
Westworld is a... It's... In the using Disney World as an example, it's got different parks, like a Magic Kingdom, like a kind of thing like that.
Right. There was in the movie, it does say that there's kind of like a Western world. There's Westworld, Future World, and there's
Roman world, medieval world.
There are a whole bunch of different worlds that you can go to. So what do you think we're going to see at the end of this season? Is Westworld going to be like the park, not the series? Is Westworld going to be done?
It's been confirmed for a second season, I heard.
Yeah, there's going to be a second season of the television series that we, at this point, know as Westworld. But at the end of the season, are we going to leave the Westworld park and go to another? For instance, in the situation of Maeve, is she going to try and escape Westworld and end up in Future World and have to hide out as a refugee there, or in Medieval World? And could she potentially find another body double of herself as a host? And if that is the case, why does Ford spend all of his time at Westworld when he could be at these other worlds? I
don't know. I think with the show, they're exclusively for now making it just Westworld. And Ford is just like, oh God, it's so crazy. Because with Ford and everything, it's as if they started the whole thing, even Delos, right? So
Well, Delos was
but
the
then-
money men in the context of the television series.
They have
he
it like
refers
that.
to them as the money men. So they're outside investors who came in later.
So
after
maybe
the
they're not.
concept.
Maybe they're not going to do it like that. Just like focusing on the Westworld part of it.
Maybe.
Because the
Or
way
I
they're structuring it, it's like Ford started everything along with Arnold, and then if they had other parks, it would be weird just to have a rehash with a different world. You know.
well, the other executive who comes in from Delos, the woman, I believe her name is Armistice.
Oh, I don't remember.
I
know her
could be
face, but I
completely
don't remember
wrong
her
with
name.
that. She does make a statement in a line that says that Teresa doesn't understand the real value of Westworld and the
Yeah.
code that Arnold creates. Immediately, what that goes to me is just because of cliches and the way that we've been indoctrinated to treat corporations, is that they want to take that technology and militarize it.
Yeah.
Is what immediately comes to mind.
Yeah,
If they do
but-
that, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, that would screw it up. That would be
That
weird.
kind of seems as I don't.
It just seems they just want to like dethrone like Ford because they're like he's
Maybe.
old news. We don't need an.
They
old
of course, but they do have some sort of alternative motive,
Yeah.
or another desire to have this technology other than being in a theme park. And I really doubt that is more theme parks, right?
Yeah. Like. I don't
I almost
know.
see an iRobot-esque
Yeah.
kind of approach that could come out of Delos' involvement.
Yeah, that's very possible. But like, thinking about the original movie, I haven't seen it, but I know enough from the trailer and from watching this show, like,
Okay.
and kind of reading the plot synopsis on Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is such a friend for moviegoers and television buffs.
Yep.
And IMDb. I have the IMDb app on my phone.
Yeah?
It's a great app.
I used to have it, then I just didn't have the room anymore. Actually, on my iPod, I had it, but anyway, it was like that. Ow, that kind of had a the movie kind of had that kind of theme to it in a way, but like, well, in the movie, it's basically kind of the same plot, but it's kind of different. It's like these two guys go to this park, and then stuff ends up crumbling all around them while they're doing other things, and then. There's
So it's
this-
much more guest oriented.
you're seeing it from the guest perspective, and this gunslinger guy who's just one of the ones that like entertaining, just like, hey, you want to do a shootout or something, and then like you do that for fun, right?
Right, okay.
And like you're supposed
And then
to
a
kill
guest
him, and he
gets
doesn't.
killed, is that
A
correct?
guest gets killed, and he ends up going like the gunslinger kind of goes on like a like like a mission to kill like the other guy who was with him, and it also has like a Terminator vibe, as in like this guy will not rest until you're dead kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, considering the hosts in the television series, that definitely struck me, is that all of these different hosts most likely have the same physical capacities. There's no reason why the internal muscular structure would be any different from host to host.
Yeah.
So Dolores is just as strong as any other host that's in there, and she definitely has some sort of she's able to perform at this
Yeah.
higher level, which most likely then means to me that the average peak for the hosts is relatively low, so
Yeah.
that Dolores can far exceed them.
Yeah.
Which then means, of course, that the physical capacities of the host definitely outscale regular humans, because she's able to just flip out her 6-shooter and take down 7 guys.
Yeah. She just she did kind of do that, but it was really like faster than you'd expect.
I mean, yeah, it could be just, I don't know if necessarily the television cuts are supposed to give us the same sort of temporality, or whether they're speeding
Okay.
up time.
It kind of
But-
came out of nowhere for me, like, oh, all right. Like, I knew
Yeah,
she
now
was
they're
gonna
all
do
dead.
it, but
Oh,
yeah,
we're
now
in
they're all
we're in
dead.
a stick of trouble, but now they're all dead. But of course, the line that spoke out for me is that she said, I just thought to myself that I don't want to be the damsel in
damsel.
distress anymore.
Yeah.
And instantly that means that she has some sort of control over her internal code that would then mess with her attributes, much like how Maeve has access to that through the programmer's interface.
What I just thought of now, going along with like the theory of the Man in Black and William, is that both meet Dolores the same way. Like, and with her can
Yeah.
rolling away, William does that, and the Man in Black doesn't. And, so
And Teddy
it's-
does, of course.
And Teddy does. Teddy's supposed to.
Maybe Teddy is William. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But like, either if William is actually the Men in Black, that they actually with whatever happened with Dolores, they just brought her back and put her back into her loop, or like because she seems to be deviating so much right now that if like either something happens and they fix her and she goes back, or it's just gonna continue, and like she's just gonna continue changing. Like she's gonna become more self-aware and it's gonna change her character even more. So like.
Right. So I mean, if the two timelines theory is correct, basically what that means is that everything that William and Dolores is doing right now is for naught.
Yeah.
That
it's not gonna...
eventually it might lead to something.
Yep.
But it won't come to true fruition until the end of the Man in Black storyline, which is fine, I think, for the way that it's going around. I don't know how I feel about the entire thing.
Yeah,
about
it's
that because that it would be really tragic, I think, to delete all of Dolores's progress, and that's definitely something as like a gamer when you forget to save or you lose all your items or something. That feels a lot worse than just a character that you like dying, because you can appreciate the art that someone might be able to put into killing a character.
Yeah,
but if you lose a whole bunch of progress, it's like, God damn it, that was horrific. I don't care for that at all.
Yeah.
It's just so unsatisfying
Like
is the feeling that it imparts.
It's a plausible theory.
Yeah.
And then it's also, if you think of it in the way that, like, how progressive Dolores is right now with William and how she was just with the Men in Black that one time. Like, I don't know. It just isn't...
Well, also, the host that was originally playing Dolores' father was...
Yeah, they got rid of him.
Yeah, they got rid of him, but previous to being in that role, he was some sort of Shakespearean guy, which means that either one of two things happened. He was either performing in Westworld as a Shakespearean actor, or that he was a part of a Shakespearean play outside of Westworld. Like he was programmed for a different sort of, attraction altogether.
Yeah.
Which is possible, especially if you consider things like a medieval world where that might be a little bit more appropriate, or possibly just a completely different attraction altogether for a special event or something. But it seemed like he had done that well enough that when it resurfaced in his code for his speech patterns, I don't know.
He was the first instance, I think, of anyone really being kind of, not really self-aware, but screwing up a little bit. Like the host was kind of screwing up. And then like Dolores was still normal then, but then like, with Arnold, like there was something in her code that was gonna have her change anyway, But then, that also might be a thing where
who knows?
Where whatever happens with her and William, it was wiped, but then it's still there.
Right. Well, I mean, if also going back to the MMO thing, it does, again going back to that dissatisfied feeling, and what we're seeing right now with the Man in Black and how he's pursuing this game like in MMO. He's going from quest point to quest point with items, gathering information. I might not like how it kind of feels in the narrative, but it would make a lot of sense as far as charging William's motives, that he gets so far in to the park that he realizes that there's something extra there, and then he loses all that progress. And then he has to come back and keep coming back for 30 years. The only thing that trips me up a little bit about that is that means that Dolores' like her narrative has been the same for 30 years. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm able to forgive the hosts in William's time looking and feeling a lot like the hosts in the Man in Black's time. Because, you do have that scene where you see the much older host. And I feel like you do kind of encounter a host like that in William's storyline where the first quest is starting to come up and Logan is trying to get rid of him. The quest giver while they're having a dinner. And he's like, get out of here, we don't want you. And he just continues trying to talk to William until they stab him in the hand. So you do see sort of this kind of interaction that doesn't quite make sense. Like, why is this host being so ridiculous?
No one would
but
really
no one else has been like that, especially when you see young Lawrence show up on the train.
Lawrence?
The young Lawrence host that shows up on the train with William.
Okay.
He's not. I don't think he's called Lawrence necessarily. Well, is he? I don't even know.
I thought, isn't Lawrence the Mexican guy?
Yeah. Well, he shows up in William's storyline.
Oh, okay. I don't
right.
Remember. Oh, and he wasn't on the train though. They met him in that town, didn't they?
Yeah, but they're on a train right now.
Yeah, they're
Give
on
me
a
a
train
little
right
bit
now.
of forgiveness.
No,
Come
I
on.
know. I know, but like I thought you were saying the first time we see
Fucking
William.
give me a
it's the
break,
first time we
kid.
see
Invite you
Lauren, so I
here,
was,
give
like,
you pizza and shit
confused.
and nice drinks, and you're just making fun of me that entire time. For
Sorry.
across the room. Fucking motherfucking kids and millennials, they just don't even give a shit.
Oh, shut up.
Uh,
I
yeah,
do thank
so
you for the drinks, though. But
yeah, absolutely. We always bev up a little bit on the podcast and make sure that we're talking straight and thinking right. Or
Yeah.
maybe not. But yeah. So those are definitely. I mean, what do you see going forward for the rest of this season? Because I think that the season ends at the end of November. I think we have
Yeah.
5
we
more
have-
episodes left, so it's going to go up to 12.
5? Yeah, that would make sense. I thought it would be. I heard that it might have been like a couple, but I mean 5 means that I don't have to like only a couple more weeks and then that's it.
Yeah, until next year, right?
Oh my god, Sherlock vibes.
So, okay, first question for Westworld and continuing to watch Westworld. Do you think that the second season is going to be in the park Westworld, yes or no?
It's possible because of how they've set it up and how they never mentioned any other world, just Delos being a company overseeing, not being the park. But I would like to see that if they end up like integrating it somehow, like your idea of Maeve being like a kind of refugee in this other world, and then she like finds herself there or something. That would also be interesting if they just use the same like hosts kind of in different parks. Like
right. She
like
goes
many
and she
versions.
finds like a queen or a beggar girl or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's the same robot.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be definitely. The thing that I get really scared of when I encounter a really good television show like this that
It's gonna end.
like well no, that's the exact opposite actually. A show that's really together from a literary standpoint, the problem that I have is that it's not going to end. Like with a really great terrible thing that happened was Hannibal.
Yeah.
After the first 2 seasons, I'm like, I didn't like the ending to the second season very much, but I could really appreciate it if they just stop it after 2 seasons. Like, there's a huge amount of bravery that you need to have in stopping a television show.
Yeah.
And I think that instead of taking the cash grab and then wearing out a show, which I think happened with
Supernatural, I think.
Supernatural,
Yeah.
Lost. There are a whole bunch
Yeah.
of shows out there that started really good with very good original stories and just fucking kept going.
Yeah.
And I think that there could be a serious issue with that in a show like Westworld, where it's completely original plot, and they could just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
I just hope there's some sort of satisfaction that comes at the end of season 1.
Yeah, like I was originally thinking in the beginning, like, oh my god, if this gets canceled, what is my life gonna be? But then it started getting good enough that I'm like, they can't do that. They wouldn't do that.
I don't want it
But-
canceled. I just want it to end. Like, I don't
Yeah,
want
like to end on its own instead of just being like ending
exactly.
one season.
I
then,
don't
like,
want a
picking up.
Firefly or another Constantine.
No.
I just want it to end peacefully.
Yeah, it needs to end right and not
Kinda like
get
True
boring
Detective.
as it keeps going.
That was a good HBO series that
Yeah.
had 2 seasons, completely separate
Two
seasons.
really famous actors. Like,
Well,
that
yeah,
one was, like,
great actors between the 2 different seasons because they did a complete
Yeah.
recast and refocus for the second season, and I liked it. I liked the second season, but this isn't a True Detective podcast. It's Westworld. However, it is 6:00.
Yeah.
We have spoiled at least the last episode and
At least.
given a big overview
we planned
of.
on doing.
Yeah, definitely.
If we didn't spoil at least that part, this wouldn't be spoiler heavy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just such a great show. It's such a great show that to the point where I'm in a stylistics class, which is a field of linguistics, and
Yeah.
my final project that I'm going to do is a cognitive stylistic analysis of the dialogue of Westworld, because they have these different frames, not just narrative frames that are focused on characters, but
Yeah.
also framing within each different scene where the dialogue changes between the hosts and the guests, especially the hosts when they are behaving in certain ways. So, you know,
Yeah, with
when
improvisation and
improv, yeah, exactly, with their improvisation, and when Maeve, for instance, realizes the speech is that she's saying is very intentional and all written, and that she has to speak within a certain coefficient of derivation,
yeah.
or a certain there's a certain derivation that she has to stay within.
One final thing I wanted to mention about
Yeah, absolutely.
like,
Let's go.
dialogue and stuff was in an analysis of a scene with like Anthony Hopkins and Teresa
Yeah.
when they were like kind of on like an estate where there was all these people and they were eating whatever. And she's like, "Oh, I sat at this table, right?" It kind of goes along breaking down what Anthony Hopkins is doing in this scene as this character, how he's saying each word, like
Right.
when it goes from like threatening to, well, I mean, to like fatherly, kind of nice, like I'm your boss and like I care about
The
you.
semantic register of what he's trying to convey.
Yeah, and it also in his face too. Like there's one scene where one part of the scene where the guy talks about how he goes through like 5 different emotions in his facial expressions, and I'm like, this guy is amazing.
I think that a part of Anthony Hopkins' role as Robert Ford, and I think this is definitely true of his role as Hannibal Lecter, he needs to kind of be in a dominating character to be able to perform all of those things so casually.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a work of art how he can express a variety of different emotions. He's an absolute master of his craft.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there was in an interview, I think he used to say that he memorized all of his lines before actually doing them, which you don't really have to do as an actor between takes. You just take your lines and go.
Yeah.
Or he would reread over and over and over again the scripts before he did it. Yeah, definitely. Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris, absolutely fucking fantastic individuals in this series, along with every other. The acting is absolutely on point. The violence is great. The characters are awesome. The boobies are there in
well, everyone's
traditional HBO style.
The hosts are naked like a lot because they don't need clothing, right?
Yeah, and you know what's kind of funny is to talk about that. Like I like to make jokes about nudity because it's lowbrow and I can kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel to get laughs. But they definitely have very sexual scenes in Westworld that, unlike Game of Thrones does, enhance the plot.
Yeah.
Especially with characterization in certain respects.
Yeah.
Such as Logan. Logan is a great example of how when he's in the brothel, he has like 4 girls, and it's just it builds his character up as kind of this person of lust and gluttony.
Yeah.
Which is fine. As opposed to in Game of Thrones when they have like sexposition.
Yeah.
They have exposition going on and sex in the background to try and keep people's attention.
Yeah.
But when they have the hosts nude, instead of being a sexual thing, it's like you never have the hosts nude and then one of the persons who's questioning them like lewdly comes up and grabs a tit or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're naked, they're standing incredibly straight, and usually they're sitting usually on the very edge of a stool. So their butt makes kind of like a little boop, and it kind of looks like some of the guys who are sitting there, it's like, I don't think my butt does that when I sit down. How are you so gorgeous? Stop it. They definitely put the naked people, like the people that they get naked are the people who should be naked.
Yeah.
Most certainly.
Well, yeah. Like,
but it instead of being a sexual thing, it frames them as being not human.
Yeah, that they don't care about their appearance. It's just like they don't notice that they're naked. They're just
right
there.
Well,
like,
it's not even necessarily focused on them as how they feel, but more as the view of
how
the individuals.
them.
Yeah, exactly. The outside view. And it almost controls, because one of the things that's definitely true, of course, of the camera, but of course also the mise en scène, which is the placement of things and people in a scene.
Yeah.
It then forces you to have the same kind of viewpoint as the individuals who are interacting with the host.
It does, yeah. The host would be like in the center of the room, and then the other person would and the room is because they're all glass rooms, and the lighting might be pretty
right.
dim
It
or
comes off as
whatever.
very sterile and doctoral.
Yeah, and like the workers or programmers or whatever are usually wearing black, and then like these
And smocks.
and or smocks, but I mean like when Elsie is like working on one, she's like kind of wearing black, right? And then like the rest of them,
right.
Yeah, I just meant
they're all
like
very
that.
distinguished and separate.
Yeah.
And even when you see the hosts who are working as kind of a reception part for the guests, as they're introduced into the park proper, they're wearing white and something that is formal but also still kind of sexy, as opposed to the people who are in Q&A like Elsie, who's definitely a very good-looking woman.
Yeah, like
but
business
she's
casual.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what you would wear in
Kind of with maybe like the
office.
poofy shoulders that are from the 80s, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's still fine to wear.
God, I want to know what happened to her. It's gonna bug me.
Yeah, well, again, that'll rise up later.
I thought it was going to this week, but it didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could be something that even comes back
Yeah.
next season. That like, oh, did you remember this person who was kind of like very heavily grounded in the idea of this business. Now she's been abducted by Arnold, and she's a freedom fighter for these robots or something. Or she goes off with Arnold like Luke and Yoda into, and becomes a Jedi. But yeah, you see a whole bunch of those really kind of important. Well, I mean, one of the things that the framing for the narratives does a lot with between Dolores and Maeve, which again kind of sets up this parallel between them, is that when we see them a lot of the times in their stories or resetting, it's always in bed. We don't see Teddy ever start with that.
I've definitely seen that, yeah. She wakes up in bed, but it's a different place, and she's wearing black, though, instead of white, like Dolores was. But I don't know if that means anything.
Yeah, it definitely could. And what's also funny is she continues to play off of her like womanly charms, which as a madam of a brothel definitely makes a lot of sense. As opposed to when you juxtapose her to Dolores and what she's doing now. Dolores is wearing trousers and
she's dressed like a man.
Exactly, and so you see not necessarily those two things say anything about the characters individually or make a comment on masculinity and femininity, but rather that those are distinguishing factors between them.
Yeah.
I guess you could maybe make some sort of assertment that it is important to their characters in certain ways because she plays a femme fatale character, Maeve does, and then Dolores has that line where she doesn't want to be the damsel anymore, but it still stands them in stark contrast to each other.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's also possibly a play of the camera where they also did, they casted a black woman and a white woman.
Yeah.
Which also could highlight the man in black and William, which is, you can almost call him the man in white.
It's also a thing where, like, unless it's, like, Native Americans, quote unquote, it's, like, race doesn't matter at all. Like, even, like among the hosts or something, whatever, or even if it's, like, a guest or whatever. Then,
that is something I definitely thought of.
They never notice anything.
Well, because you are introduced to some guests who are black in the second episode, and that immediately struck me where these people are in the West.
Based on what happened back in the day.
Yeah, if you were to take that with,
we know.
American history, they wouldn't have been in the high esteem that an actual guest is. So, of course, that's written off. I mean, that just makes business sense. And not just for Westworld as a theme park, but also Westworld as a television series. You definitely, unless racism is one of your highlighted themes that you're trying to tackle, which is not something that I personally would try to do in any of the narratives that I try to tell, because it's just,
me neither.
It's this huge, powerful thing that I don't think that I have the ability to tackle. But I mean, you just don't want to bring that kind of attention necessarily to a television show, so they've stayed pretty far away from that. But when you consider that each of the hosts are built very intentionally, you can also take then that functions of the plot and narrative and literary functions of the television show are also very intentional. And so the idea that Dolores was cast as white and Maeve was cast as a black woman, you know what, that's actually kind of, I mean, I don't want to stay on the race thing for too long necessarily, but it is actually kind of encouraging, if that is the case, to see a woman who is a black actress in a role that was intentionally written for a black actress, and then there's nothing that's particularly stereotyped about her at all.
No,
in any way, shape, or form. So
and she's British too.
Well, also, she's a British black woman in as her character is, and then also you see again Dolores, who is this character who's becoming more and more masculine. In in reality, in contrast to her, William comes off as rather feminine, especially because he does things like talk about his feelings, and he's very unsure, and he's very passionate as well. In when he starts to initiate some sort of romantic fling with Dolores, and man, that scene was hot.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Dolores, I can't remember the actress's name, but she is
Evan Rachel Wood.
So pretty.
I really only know her name because...
So pretty.
And I remember her so much because she was in Across the Universe, and I watched that movie a lot in high school.
I think that actually might be... In most television shows that I watch now, there is equal amounts of very sexy men and very sexy women. I don't see that as much in HBO shows, I guess, particularly thinking about Westworld and HBO. Really?
I think so.
Who do you think is attractive in Game of Thrones? Definitely not Jon Snow. He looks like he's walking around, his thumb should be in his mouth the entire time.
Khal Drogo was pretty sexy.
Yeah, you got me there. Fucking Aquaman, I'd bone the shit out of that king of the seven seas. Seven stings of my anus. It's that part of the night where I start making anal sex jokes. Are you ready, audience?
Oh man, yeah, and he's gonna be in this other show that's like he's like some really really, I don't know, violent person.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember what that show's called, but it's during like colonial times or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something to do with hunting in winter.
Yeah. So I like Westworld. It's a great television show.
Yes, it's a great addition
HBO
to
is
HBO
definitely, and
lineup.
one of the reasons that I think that HBO is, like, as far as programming goes, it's come again at a fantastic time. There's not a lot of premiere television shows that are coming out at this point, I don't believe. And it's going to end a lot sooner than Christmas, which is when most series take a break.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself for that whole time.
You're going to probably be spending time on, like...
Doctor Who, maybe.
Oh, really? Oh, we should have
to catch up.
I've been thinking about having a podcast, and maybe you and me and another guest that I've had on the podcast, Patricia, can all talk about it. I did a Harry Potter, Does Harry Potter Suck podcast. I've also been thinking about doing a Why Doctor Who is Bad podcast. So if we decide to do that, I'll make sure that you're on the slate for the podcast. But one of the things I was going to say about the interaction with HBO between Westworld and Game of Thrones is that Game of Thrones is having a later release date this year, because as time goes on and the plot progresses in Game of Thrones, they're having to shoot their scenes in progressively more stormy, darker, more wintry settings. So the natural light definitely helps with that. However, that means that, you know, the more time that they spend on doing those sorts of shoots, the production time is going to take longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
So
They're
we'll
do
see.
It in season.
They might just like go on a break for an entire year. Just no Game of Thrones next year, guys.
Or like,
see you in 2 years or a year and a half.
Like,
just like Rick and Morty, which should be coming out this December.
Sherlock is pretty notorious for that. I think they're
that's because the BBC hates us, though.
I know. It's
the
3
BBC are
episodes every
sadists.
2 years.
They don't care. They'll. Do you like this show? Don't you love this show? This show is so good. Do you want to give us money for the show? Oh, you do? No more show for you.
Yeah.
No more. Oh, Merlin's so great. No more
yeah.
Merlin.
Yeah.
Totally canceled. No more. They're going to come out with like a next season of Merlin in 3 years.
Yeah, just watch. And it'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. It seemed pretty final, though.
Hopefully
I never
we won't
watched
have
it.
to wait that long for another season of Westworld, though.
I hope not.
Definitely good. Especially because it looks like a lot of their filming is going down in like New Mexico or the deserts of California.
Yeah.
But as I said about
it is pretty
15
late.
minutes ago, it is 6 o'clock, and actually, no, it's 6:17. So I think that we're going to stop the podcast here, get going on other things. Again, I'm going to an early screening of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them tonight. I will be doing a quick spoiler-free review that will be online on the absynthe.org site. Thank you very much for listening in, everyone there in television land. Thank you very much, Katie, for coming on the podcast and talking to me about television and putting up with me. We look to hopefully have you back on then for a Doctor Who podcast.
Yay.
All right, well, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Now I have to stop the stream. Stop the stream. Don't let them stop listening. What are you doing here? The podcast is over. I'm trying to stop the stream. Stop it now. Stop the stream. Why aren't you stopping?